Baba's merciful Rahim Nazar constantly envelops my son Sai Raj, for which I am totally grateful to Baba, says Santosh Godke, a devotee from Pune. Once, when Sai Raj was a year and a half old, he was playing on the floor while I lay on the bed. Before long, I fell asleep. Then, this astounding phenomenon took place. A shadowy cloud entered the room through the window and took the form of a human being. The human being said, "Are, are you sleeping? Get up! Don't you have to go to Shirdi?" I was jolted out of my sleep. I looked around, but no one was there. And then I looked on the floor for Sai Raj. He had crawled to a small table on which a table fan was kept. Of course, the face of the blades of the fan were enclosed in a grill casing. However, Sai Raj had managed to put his tiny fingers through the grill. In alarm, I jumped up out of bed and picked him up. And by Baba's grace, his tiny fingers were all right. I dread to think of what would have happened if Baba had not woken me at that juncture. Baba's timely warning saved my son from losing his fingers of the right hand. All I can say is, Baba, always be like a shadow behind us and envelop us in thy grace. Recently, I visited Shirdi. With great anticipation, I went to the Samadhi Mandir. I hope to lay my head on Baba's padukas and touch his beatific Samadhi. However, in recent times, the Sansthan has put up a glass screen or shield on 3 sides of the Samadhi. I can understand their objective. Due to the ever-increasing crowds, the Sansthan has taken these protective measures. But I was sorely disappointed. I felt like my pilgrimage was incomplete without touching or having some physical contact with the Samadhi. I returned home with tears of disappointment in my eyes. Crestfallen, I tried to return to my daily routine, but however much I tried, the thought that I was unable to touch the Samadhi because of the glass shield was on top of my mind. I was obsessed by that one thought that I was unable to touch the Samadhi. Morning, noon and night I was haunted by this thought, and I was unable to concentrate on my work. So I started praying daily, Baba, the next time I visit Shirdi, please let me touch your Samadhi. Early one morning, I had this wonderful dream. I saw a huge cave below the Samadhi, and then I saw Baba coming out of the cave. Then right in front of me, he went and sat on the stone and said, "Now have my darshan to your heart's content." I immediately seized the opportunity and lay my head on his feet for a long time. I sat in front of him and massaged his feet gently. "Are you content now? Every day you prayed for this. Are you satisfied now?" Hearing these words, I woke up startled. But my yearning to touch Baba's Samadhi and much more was fulfilled. What a wonderful God you are, that you fulfill even the tiniest wish of your devotees. Years ago, Santosh had brought some Udi from Shirdi. He had kept it in a small box, and every day he and his family applied Udi from that box. Not only that, any devotee who came to their home would take some Udi from it. But by Baba's grace, the box was always full. The Udi had a quality of multiplying, and due to this, they were leading a contented life. If anyone was ill, the first line of treatment is the application of Udi and taking it internally. In September 2006, Sai Raj, who was 6 months old, suddenly had a severe convulsion and became unconscious. Santosh and his wife were at their wits' end and didn't know what to do. Then Santosh picked Sai Raj and took him to Siddhanath Hospital that was close by. Dr. Lalwani, who was there, immediately examined him. However, during the examination, Sai Raj had another convulsion and his eyes rolled up. Dr. Lalwani thus became aware of the seriousness of the condition and transferred him to a renowned hospital. He immediately took out his car and asked us to get in. Then, at breakneck speed, he drove them there. Santosh was praying to Baba, and from his pocket he took out some udi and applied it on Sai Raj's forehead and tongue. At that time, Sai Raj's breathing was quite erratic and irregular. Santosh was aghast that his breathing would stop for short periods of time and then continue again. However, after applying the udi, the respiration returned to normal and Santosh breathed a sigh of relief. At the hospital, Sai Raj was checked and admitted into the ICU. The doctor informed Santosh that Sai Raj's condition was critical. Santosh sat outside and fervently prayed to Baba to save his child. Dr. Lalwani sat next to him and reassured him as best as he could. But Santosh knew that it was all in Baba's hands and only Baba could turn Sai Raj's condition around. So he surrendered completely to Baba and said, "Thy will be done." The thought on top of his mind was about the power of Baba's udi. In the Sri Sai Satcharita, he had read about its life-bestowing power. With consternation, Santosh says, "I was told that visitors were not allowed inside for fear of contagion. But I was restless and determined that I would apply udi on Sai Raj's forehead, come what may. I knew that udi was the only panacea and the only life-giving elixir. Now I had to find a way to enter the ICU. I asked the security person there to let me in for a few minutes, but he curtly refused. Then I pleaded to him and told him that I wanted to apply some udi on Sai Raj's forehead. Hearing this, he got even more furious, as he was of the opinion that diseases don't get better by these superstitious applications. However, not paying any heed to him, I loudly called out Baba and entered the ward. Swiftly, I applied the udi on his forehead and tongue, all the while begging him for the gift of Sai Raj's life. Then I quickly came out and sat down and prayed. After what seemed like infinity, the team of doctors again checked Sai Raj. They stood in front of me and said, "Your child is responding to the treatment." We were very concerned as we were fighting a losing battle. We must admit that your faith has worked wonders. Hearing these words, my eyes were filled with tears and I joined my palms together and thanked Baba for his mercy. A week later, Sai Raj was discharged and we brought him home. The test of my faith was yet to come. A few days after we brought Sai Raj home, he again fell ill. Thereafter, he had some problem or the other almost every day, and visits to the doctor became inevitable. Like Damocles' sword, the fear of getting another convulsion hung over our heads. I stood in front of Baba's picture and prayed earnestly, "Baba, your udi has given him a new life. Now please bring him out of these nagging illnesses and make him healthy. One day, Baba appeared in my dream. In the dream, he was standing near Sai Raj's head while Sai Raj was sleeping between me and my wife. Then Baba sat down next to his pillow and picked Sai Raj up and started playing with him. After playing with him for a short while, he said, "Why are you worrying so much? Don't you have faith in me? Don't you have faith in my Uday? Don't worry so much. Nothing is going to happen to your son. He will be all right soon." Then Baba put his hand inside his joli and with his palm laden with Uday placed it on Sai Raj's forehead. His joli must have been overflowing with Uday, as Baba's palm was totally covered with it. At that moment, I got up. Since Sai Raj returned home from hospital, we slept with the light on, as he might need something at night. I glanced at the clock. It was 4:30 a.m. I turned and looked at Sai Raj, who was sleeping peacefully. What I saw next left me speechless with delight. Sai Raj's entire forehead was covered with Uday, and the imprint of Baba's fingers were distinctly visible on his forehead. I immediately woke up my wife and narrated the dream, and she also saw the imprint of Baba's beatific palm on Sai Raj's head. Needless to say that Sai Raj never fell ill after that, and now he's a delightfully mischievous 3-year-old. But most importantly, he loves Baba. This Leela was taken from Sri Sai Sagar Magazine, Volume 7, 3rd July to September 2009.